March 25, 1983, Pasadena Civic Auditorium. A 24-year-old in a black sequin jacket and a single white glove finishes a spin, freezes for half a second, and then glides backward across the stage as if the floor itself had turned to ice. The audience loses its mind. And when that performance airs on television 2 months later, the entire planet has the same reaction at the same time. In that instant, the world believed it had just watched a man invent a brand new way for a human body to move. There's only one problem with that story. He didn't invent it. So if Michael Jackson didn't invent the moonwalk, where did it really come from? Who actually taught it to him? And here's the real question if it wasn't his. Why does the entire world still give him the credit? Stick around, because the answer is more interesting than the myth. And if you like the stories behind the legends, hit subscribe for more interesting stories. Now let's get into it. To understand what Michael actually did, you first have to understand what he walked into. Because the moonwalk, that impossible-looking glide, wasn't his idea. It was already decades old. Rewind to the 1930s. Jazz bandleader Cab Calloway was gliding across stages doing it. They called it the buzz. That same decade, a 1935 cartoon titled Dancing on the Moon showed an animated cat doing the exact same backslide. Now jump to the 1950s. Tap legend Billie closed out a routine by sliding clean off the back of the stage, one of the purest early versions ever caught on camera. And across the ocean, French mime Marcel Marceau turned it into art. Pretending an invisible wind was shoving him backward while he strained to walk into it. So the glide was alive long before Michael was born. Passed through jazz, through tap, through mime, hiding in plain sight for half a century. But none of them made it explode. None of them sent a generation of kids running to the mirror to copy it. That part is where Michael comes in, just not the way you think. The version of the moonwalk that Michael actually learned didn't come from jazz or a mime. It came from much closer to home and much more recent. It came from the street, and from one show in particular, Soul Train. Through the 1970s, the long-running African-American dance show Soul Train was the laboratory where funk-era street styles got perfected on national TV. This was the world of popping and locking, and a crew of dancers known for those moves, including the backslide, performed them week after week. Out of that scene came the man who is arguably the most important figure in this story. A popper and singer named Jeffrey Daniel. Daniel was a member of the group Shalimar, and he had been performing backslides in public appearances since the mid-1970s. Then, in 1982, Daniel performed the move on British television during Shalimar's song, A Night to Remember. Michael Jackson saw it, and he became a fan. That's the part the myth erases. By the time Michael did it on that famous night, this wasn't some move he dreamed up alone in a studio. It was a move he had admired, studied, and gone looking for. So here's the big question. If he didn't invent it, who put it in his body? The honest answer: more than one person. And this is where it gets specific. Start with Michael's own words. In his autobiography, which he literally titled Moonwalk, he gave the credit away himself. He wrote that the dance was taught to him by 3 kids, and he named one of them outright, a young Bobby Brown of New Edition. Sit with that for a second. The man the world calls the inventor of the moonwalk said, in his own book, that kids taught it to him. Then there's the name everyone whispers: Jeffrey Daniel, the Soul Train and Shalimar dancer. For years the rumor was that Daniel personally taught Michael the move. But there's a problem. When Michael was first learning it, Daniel was on tour with Shalimar. The timing rules him out as the original teacher. So Michael found another way in. According to people from that scene, he reached out through Soul Train dancer Cheryl Song to set up a meeting with a dancer named Geron Candidate, known as Casper. And in June of 1981, 2 years before the world ever saw the move, Michael's management arranged private lessons. By Casper's own account, he spent a full week teaching Michael Jackson the moonwalk one-on-one. And he says he can prove it. He still has the check and the original contract. A signed contract, a paid check, a week of private lessons to learn the dance most people swear he made up on the spot. And it didn't even end there. After Motown 25, after the move had already turned him into a global phenomenon, Michael reportedly went back to Jeffrey Daniel to sharpen the technique even further, once Daniel was finally off tour. So the real picture was never one teacher. It was a chain. Street dancers and Soul Train pioneers built and refined it. Bobby Brown and two other kids first put it in front of him. Casper drilled it into him over a paid week, and Jeffrey Daniel helped him perfect it. Michael Jackson didn't invent the moonwalk. He did something most legends never admit to. He found the people who already had it and paid them to make him better than all of them. Now the part that actually matters. If a dozen people did it before him and other people taught it to him, why is it that when you say the word moonwalk, you don't picture Cap Calloway or Bill Bailey or Jeffrey Daniel? You picture Michael Jackson. And the answer is because of what he did with it. Every dancer before him performed the move. Michael performed the moment. Think about the staging of Motown 25, the spin, the freeze, the snap to a pose, the precise instant he chose to slide, all locked to Billie Jean, in front of a live audience and then broadcast to the world in one synchronized cultural event. One music critic described it as Michael, encapsulating an entire tradition of African American dance in a single performance. Another writer, Nelson George, put it perfectly. He said Michael's version combined Jackie Wilson's athleticism with James Brown's camel walk. In other words, Michael didn't just borrow one move. He absorbed an entire lineage, fused it together, and delivered it with a level of precision and showmanship nobody had matched. He also did something clever with the name. The move had been called the backslide, the buzz, and other things for 50 years. Michael rebranded it. He called it the moonwalk, and he made it his own so completely that he named his autobiography after it and built a 1988 film, Moonwalker, around it. That's the difference between inventing something and owning it. Michael Jackson did the second one, and arguably, that's the harder thing to do. So here's where we land. The moonwalk is older than Michael Jackson. It belonged to jazz band leaders, to a French mime, to tap legends and a generation of street dancers on Soul Train. He didn't pull it out of thin air on that stage in 1983. He found it. He admired it. He paid to learn it properly. And then he did something no one before him had done. He took a 50-year-old move and burned it into the memory of the entire planet in a single night. That's not the story of an inventor. It's the story of something rarer, a performer who understood exactly which moment, which song, and which split second would turn an old dance into an immortal one. So next time someone tells you Michael Jackson invented the moonwalk, now you know the truth. He did something more impressive. He made it belong to him forever. If you learned something, drop a like and tell me in the comments. Did you always think he invented it? Subscribe for more stories behind the legends. I'll see you in the next one.